Well, if a speed limit sign isn't posted, do you know how fast you can actually drive? Tom Sinas joining us now to make sure we know the law, whether a sign is posted or not. Interesting here, Tom.
Very interesting predicament that recently came to light in a Michigan Court of Appeals case earlier in July. That was actually a criminal case, and it involved a traffic stop that resulted in a defendant being arrested and charged with a number of crimes. And in that case, the defendant challenged the basis for the stop and argued under the Fourth Amendment that if the stop wasn't legitimate, then whatever evidence obtained during the stop was also not legitimate.
Interesting. He was stopped for speeding, essentially, it sounds like, not knowing what the speed limit was.
Interestingly enough, he was stopped because the police officer believed that he, the defendant, was speeding. The police officer in this case believed that the speed limit in the area where the defendant was driving was 25 miles an hour. Well, as it turns out, that wasn't correct. And the reason it wasn't correct is because the particular speed limit where this stop occurred had not been adequately posted by the municipality. And so therefore, it created a situation in this particular case where, because the speed limit wasn't posted, it defaulted to what our law refers to as the general speed limit for county roads, which is 55 miles an hour. So in this particular case, the defendant was able to successfully argue that the stop was illegal, and therefore the evidence...
I wasn't speeding, therefore everything you found after you thought I was speeding should be thrown out.
Right, we call that the fruit of a poisonous tree
Wow.
in the criminal world. But it reminds us that speed limits, this is such an obvious thing, but that speed limits have to be posted. If they aren't posted, then our statutes have this default concept. If they are going to be posted, then our statutes set forth the types of speed limits that should exist for particular types of roads. And it really depends upon the number of access points there are along the road. And that just makes common sense when you think about it, right? Neighborhood streets with more access points have lower speed limits. One thing, of course, important to remember is that even though we have posted speed limits, we also have this part of Michigan law, which says that you cannot operate in any manner on a roadway where you can't stop within an assured clear distance ahead. In other words, and that you have to drive for what is reasonable under the conditions existing at the time. Right? Well, it's not winter yet. But it will be soon, unfortunately. And there are plenty of times in the winter where, even though the posted speed limit is 45 miles an hour, it isn't safe to drive 45 miles an hour. So this thing that 99.9% of the time is obvious, what is the speed limit, every once in a while gets a little sideways, and it isn't so obvious. Sometimes the speed limit actually is lower than you think in order to be safe. And in this particular criminal case, the speed limit effectively was higher than the officer thought.
Very interesting. Where do people track you down, Tom?
Well, they can find us online at www.sinusdramus.com. Give us a call in West Michigan at 616-301-3333, or shoot us an email at info@sinusdramus.com.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Derek.